Seniors, are you worried about the personal insight questions on the UC application? You need to write 4 350-word essays. They give you 8 total questions. Now this content should be easy because it's really about you. But from the 30 years experience I've got helping students write essays, this is the hardest essay to write because you've got to reveal yourself. However, it shouldn't be that hard if you follow a couple of simple rules and you make certain that no matter what, you reveal something about yourself in these essays. Watch this video and I'll show you how. My name is Mike Flynn, owner of Engenius Learning Center. For the past 30 years, I've been helping students write application essays. Students come to me very concerned that they don't know what they're going to write about. What I always try and tell students is that 2 most important things to remember. You know the content, because this story is about you. Now, when we talk about story, we're not so interested really in the story that you have to tell, but how and why that was personal to you. See, so for the UC application essays, they're looking for 4 350-word essays, and they're going to give you 8 total topics. Now, each one of those essay topics is a little bit different. Some are a little bit more alike than, some others. But realistically speaking, we're going to have 4 different content-based essays. The content is always about you, but it's a different aspect about you. Unfortunately, what ends up happening, most of the student essays that I read all involve a chronology, this fantastic story. You've only got 350 words, and people will devote 300 words to telling me about their story, and then only 50 revealing a little bit about who you are, how something made you feel, but most importantly, why. So again, the topic is a personal insight question, and really what we want is to help get that aspect of who you are out onto paper. So the very best way to do this is to go through and start understanding what it is that the application essays want. The very first thing we have to recognize is there are a couple of do's and don'ts. Most importantly, keep your focus narrow and personal. See, for the UC application essays, you only have 350 words. Now, when you first start out, that seems like an infinite number. But as you start to write, you realize that you're going to come up with a word count problem. Now, if you're worried about the Common App or the Coalition essay, those are 650 words. We can keep your focus a little bit broader. But for UC essays, this needs to be very narrow. We need to tackle one thing, and we need to make it very personal. The second aspect that I often talk about is this concept about spice. So what's interesting to me is that students have something that gives me a reason to want to keep on reading, right? Whatever that is, let me read. I want to be able to get to know you. And if you don't give me a little spice, it's not going to be very interesting. We've all had soup or stew that was too bland, right? There's not enough spice in it. We've also had something that was way too spicy, way too salty, and that's because the cook had a heavy hand. You need to be able to make your content have a little flash, have a little spice, and we do that by having some vivid and specific facts. But you don't want to have too many, otherwise we lose what it is that you're trying to reveal, which is something about you. Finally, what you want to do is you want to take the reader on a journey of discovery. So I often use this concept of a starting point and a finish point. And your job is to kind of weave a thread that takes me from the start to the end. But most importantly, whatever you do, don't keep putting parts of the story in there, because then there's no place for you to reveal who you are. So it's a journey of discovery with a starting point and a finish. And most importantly, it's okay if your journey hasn't finished. It's okay if you don't know what you're going to end up doing. And it's really okay to show that in this journey, if you failed. Now, if you did fail, even if you did succeed, what did you learn? And why was that important? Now that we've gone over some do's, let's consider some don'ts. Before you start to write, you should always consider who your audience is. The audience that you're writing for is going to be very receptive. They're going to want to see who you are and in a revealing fashion. What ends up happening, though, is that students are concerned that the audience that you're writing for, right, these college admissions counselors, are going to want to hear how wonderful you are, all the great things that you've done, all the wonderful times that you've gone through and helped others and created these amazing things. You know, for the most part, they recognize you're just a high school student and that you've played sports and you've been in activities, or maybe you were a kid that stayed home and read or played video games. Whatever the aspect is, they recognize that you're just an average teen and now you're looking to go to college. So let them know that. If you did do something wonderful, what did you learn from that? If you haven't done anything, what did you learn from that? And how can that help you in the future? And if you did have some failures, great, list them. Failure can be a wonderful teaching tool. You just need to show that. But most importantly, if you do show that you failed, or that if your life is still in progress, which it is, what lessons can you take that you're going to be able to apply when you get into college? And how is that going to help you springboard or leapfrog to the next aspect, right? So your life is just a series of these different places that we're going, and what experiences do I have and what can I learn from those different experiences? That's what they want to see. So don't just write about how wonderful you are, write about what it is that you've learned. Second aspect is this concept about rhythm. Now, having taught English and having read thousands of essays, I see that students all too often try and pack a sentence full of really big fancy words. You don't need it, particularly if you don't know how to use the words. Just going through and finding words from a thesaurus are the wrong way to go about writing these essays. The way to spice up your writing if you don't have a great vocabulary, and even if you do have a great vocabulary, be careful, right? Just we were talking about spice earlier in the do's, be careful with how much you spice your sentences with vocabulary. So one of the things to think about is this concept of rhythm. And the way that we talk about rhythm is that often students will write long sentence, long sentence, long sentence, long sentence. And then the next paragraph is long sentence, long sentence, long sentence, long sentence. And it goes on and on and on, and it can be very, very boring. So one of the very best things that you can do is alter that up. Throw in a short sentence that varies that rhythm. Now, sometimes it can be even better to start a sentence off with a short sentence. Then you go ahead and you have your longer subordinated sentences. Or maybe you start off with a long sentence, long sentence, long sentence, and you punctuate with something short at the end. And I always think of the Nike commercials. And one of perhaps the most famous terms or slogans in all of advertising is "just do it." And so you'll see these commercials that Nike will do. Well, they'll have a long scene and then another scene, and then they punctuate at the very end with "just do it." If it's good enough for Nike, it's probably good enough for you. Finally, in another concept of don't use 50 words if 5 will do. If you have the opportunity to cut words and make something tight and concise, that will be a much better essay for you than anything else that you can do. So that concept really helps play into the rhythm, and you'll see that you're going to write essays that are very, very tight and very effective. Okay, so we understand the do's and the don'ts of writing the essay. Now it's time to start writing the essay, right? No, don't. There are 8 topics, and when you go through those 8 topics, it can be a little overwhelming because you've got to pick 4 and you can't even decide on one to get started with. So what I often tell people is just start writing about something. And what you're going to do is this writing, though maybe not directly related to a topic, gets this process of writing going. And then you might be able to find some content that from these topics that we're going to write about that are going to help you out. And so one of the questions that I like to ask students to write about is, what aspects of your high school career did you enjoy or dislike the most? Now, there is not a direct essay that relates to that, but there is some content that you're going to be able to glean from that that might apply very nicely. How do you define success? Another great opener. It's an open-ended question. It doesn't have to be so specific, and you might be able to find a concept, a sentence, or maybe even a whole paragraph that you're going to be able to take and then use for a specific essay. Another concept of this starter that I often use for students, what kind of person do you want to become? See, so this is going to reveal something about your character, this passion that you're going to have. And that is something that is directly related to an essay topic. But if we were to start writing about that, then all of a sudden it's hard. But if we talk about what sort of person do I want to become, we can kind of dance around it and then shape a bunch of content to really help out. Finally, what experiences have shaped your growth? This can be a really easy one to start writing about that we're going to then be able to take and apply to an actual essay topic. Another couple of topics, name your academic interests. So you could say, hey, I love math, I love science, I love English, I love history. We don't really care what it is that you're interested in. We want to know what the interest is, and then most importantly, you want to then define why. Why is that something that is interesting to you? If you enjoy math, is it because there's a clarity that you can get to an answer and it's so clear? If you enjoy humanities, English, or history, is there a cause and effect to history that you find so fascinating? Or that if you were to be good at writing essays, is it that there is no single correct answer, but it's maybe the best answer that helps motivate people? Whatever the thing is, go ahead and put it down. But when we talk about naming your academic interest, it's a whole lot easier than having to start writing that essay. Were there any classes in high school that were too challenging, and why? Now, this is one that my students often wonder, Mike, why would I want to admit failure? Why would I want to admit that I'm not right? So there's something known as emotional intelligence. And when you recognize that something was challenging and that you've come to grips with it and you've had to modify your behavior to overcome it, that's very powerful. It's also very revealing, right? And this is, again, a personal insight question. I'll say it a dozen more times. Really, you need to make certain that you reveal who you are. And so if you said math was exceptionally challenging or history was exceptionally challenging, don't be afraid to say why. And then that gives you a platform to talk about the things that you've done to modify your behavior so that you can overcome. That's very, very powerful. What is the most difficult way for you to learn? This is, again, another concept of this emotional intelligence. Hey, I'm a very visual learner and I struggle when I do something. I'm a very kinesthetic learner and I love to do things working with my hands. And that can be, hey, this is going to be a perfect major for me. If you want to go into engineering and you're a kinesthetic learner, that's a beautiful fit. Finally, one of the ones that I find that's often most difficult for students to write about is, what would your friends list as your best qualities? So you could say, hey, this is my best quality, and you feel good about that. But it's a whole lot different when you have to ask yourself what your friends would think. Because what ends up happening is that we often feel as if we're going to be egotistical with what we're going to write down. That's part of this process. We have to break through that shell and really reveal who you are. Again, personal insight question. They want to know who you are and why you are the way you are. UC App Essay number 5. And again, remember, we're doing them 5 through 8. Right? Because we wanted to cover that Common App. So describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? So you got 350 words. Describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you've taken to overcome this. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? This word right here, I think, is what you want to focus in on. You're welcome to describe all that you like. There is no issue whatsoever with describing your significant challenge. But realistically speaking, to describe something takes a long time. Whereas maybe what we do is we just do a quick little, like I said, montage. Give them a couple of quick scenes. This is what you faced. But really what I'm interested in is how this has affected your academic achievement. So what happened? Was this a challenge too hard? You could even go back to that hero's journey. You could say, this was a challenge I shied away from. I had a chance to take a bunch of AP classes, and frankly, I was too much. I couldn't handle it. I bit off more than I could chew. And I had to drop one class. And then I realized that my confidence was shot, and I had to drop 2 classes. And I had taken on so much that it was ruining everything. But after being able to kind of step back and let my confidence heal and understand the workload requirements, I was able to then go and be successful with the classes that I had remaining. And then I've got back and tried to take those classes again as a senior. So that's how it's affected me. It was hard. I doubted myself. I couldn't sleep at night. I was struggling eating. Any and all of these things are real. And don't downplay that, right? This is your struggle. Whatever that struggle is, make certain that they understand that you had troubles with it.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, I had to write a UCA essay for English class, and I chose that prompt. And I decided to talk about something that wasn't really academic. Like, I talked about how I broke my wrist.
Uh-huh.
And I had, I had to get surgery, and then I had to recover from that. And, I talked about as that being a significant challenge. Would that not be a good idea?
No, so, Nathan, honestly, they don't care what your challenge is. They don't. They're looking for your response.
Okay.
Because I don't know how, so I have another student where, in a sense, that person has lost his father. And to some, that would seem like the most traumatic thing in the world. And for this particular person, it was the very best thing that could have happened. Right? I'm not going to give details. The person didn't die, but it just that there was a separation. And that gave this person life. So the separation was not critical, but was all the things that came from it. So, hey, I broke my, I'm sorry, wrist, arm, wrist. You broke your wrist. What were the challenges, and how did you respond to those? And did you have self-doubt? And did you wallow in pity? So don't be afraid. This is why I discussed that whole hero's journey concept. Is listen, there's the conflict is nothing an ordinary life. I rose to the challenge and I exceeded expectations and I am wonderful. Or, oh man, I failed miserably. All 3 of those can be great stories. You just have to be willing and understand how to phrase it in a way that shows that you benefited from the outcome. So, okay, can I ask what were some of the things that you took away from that experience?
Yeah, so pretty much I talked about how I was going into my junior year and I didn't have such a good sophomore season, and at the end of it I broke my wrist. And then how I was going into my junior season playing varsity for the first year, so minutes were already going to be tight. And then I was coming off an injury as well, so it wasn't looking very good for playing at all or even making the team. I even doubted myself making the team. But I healed faster than I thought, and then I had to do a lot of PT to strengthen it again. But then for some reason, I was working on my right hand the whole time while I had a cast, and then I ended up becoming a better player than I was before.
So the break and the outcome. Nice, great These are my bookends, right? And honestly, those are the least meaningful and important aspects to your whole story. The most important aspects of your story, and I'm not trying to downplay what you went through. Please don't understand that. But from a reader's standpoint, okay, yeah, kid broke his arm. Okay, yeah, big deal. He's here. Is what sort of persistence did it take to fight through these things? How did your resolve get challenged, and what is it like now? Do you feel that you can handle any outcome because you've already had adversity and you've learned to deal with that? Right? So that's the emphasis to focus in on. The break and the outcome are the bookends. That's a sentence and a sentence at the end, maybe 2 sentences, whatever. This is where 300 words are spent. You know, maybe until this time I didn't have great persistence. Everything came easily to me. And my resolve had never been challenged. And I was doubting that I was going to have a positive outcome because I had never had to come through this. And I did struggle and I did do this. But you know what? Little by little, I picked myself off the ground. And I fought through and I did that. And, you know, it still could be a fantastic story that said, listen, I still only average 4 minutes a game, but you know what? I got back. And that's really what the story is about, was the journey, not the start and the destination. Those are critical for the story, but that's not the meaningful portion of the story. The meaningful portion of the story is your journey. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Now the hard part is you got to go write that. It's easy. It's real easy for me to tell you what to go do. You got to go write it now.
I got it, but it's 400 words, so I think I can cut down on the actual break and then the resolve and fatten the middle up a little bit more.
Listen, trimming 50 words is child's play. Trimming 100 words is hard. Because trimming 50 words is rephrasing sentences, combining a sentence, right? I mean, we can make 50 words go away in less than an hour. That's a piece of cake. You're 100 words over. Okay, we have a serious rewrite ahead of ourselves. So some things to think about here. So how has, another thing to throw onto this, how has your life changed? Right? For whatever this aspect is, how has your life changed? That's really something to consider there, is what can I look favorably upon this? Whatever that journey was, what can I take from the journey? You see question number 6. Think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you furthered this interest and or outside the classroom. So this is a strange one. Because a lot of us have an interest in something, but does it inspire us? And so I'm going to be honest. Most of you on here, your inspirations come from something non-academic. Is that correct? Yeah, right? Because in high school, you're taking what's known as a survey course. So a survey course is you're going to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you're going to learn all kinds of interesting, believe it or not, you're learning some of the coolest aspects of the entire field when you're taking AP Bio or AP Chem or some of these subjects. You're taking the coolest little part of this and the coolest little part of that. And you're never really doing this incredibly deep dive into something to figure out why something works. Some of you think the survey course is cool because, oh, I learned a bunch of stuff. Some of you may go, no, I only want the really deep dive. So this question is primarily about the deep dive. What is it that you go, oh, this is what I want to do? Now, Max, you had said that in a previous time, when I can't remember when it was, but there you have these thoughts and like, hey, I want this intellectual pursuit, right? These are things I like to think about problems and how to come up with some solutions. So this might possibly be an option for you. I don't know if you've thought about this one as an option or not, but I think that there's a way to spin a subject. So if you're looking at aerospace engineer, mechanical engineering, you're looking at how things work and how things go. So based off of that, there's maybe not a one subject, but there's a concept. And this concept of engineering, what makes something, how things work. There's even a TV series called How Things Work, right? You go look up a couple of those and you can get some ideas. Yeah, right? It's pretty cool. So now, the hard part about this one is describe how you have furthered this interest. So what have you done? Now again, they're looking for the journey. So for me, right, I was fascinated, for any of you that ran track for me, Stephen, you know that I was fascinated with biomechanics. So even when I was in high school, I was still ultimately consumed with efficiency of motion and where my arms had to go and how my legs had, and all of my head and body posture, because I wanted to take my God-given capacity, which wasn't a whole lot, and maximize it out as much as I possibly could to get as fast as I possibly could. Because there were people with much more talent than I had, but maybe not the know-how about how things work. So that wasn't really an academic pursuit of mine, but it was just a pursuit of interest. So don't feel bad if you said, listen, this is what I'm most interested in. So don't think this has to be your major. This is not a topic about, I'm writing about my major. It can be. Stephen, you love to climb things. Right? Okay, why? Any particular reason why, Stephen, you like to climb things?
Just fun to do, I guess.
Okay, that's fine. What's fun about it?
Just being able to get to where I guess no one else can go, or most people can't go.
Okay, good. And there's a challenge there?
Yeah.
Do you have a heightened sense of accomplishment when you're up higher than someone?
Yeah. I like to, I don't know, push the limits with how high I can go in things.
Okay. And do you often feel, you can back out of this one, but do you often feel better than someone else after you've done that? Like, oh, those people couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Okay, good. All right, so thank you for the honest answer. So we don't necessarily know what academic subject that is, but we could take and spin this into something about this pursuit of the challenge. And then we can broaden that out into, hey, this could be in engineering, this could be in mechanics. There are all kinds of things that this could go into. So I see this as a real possibility for you. You may never have thought about it, but again, the term academic is a broad term. We can make this happen of a lot of things, and it doesn't have to be your major. That's the critical thing to think about with this one. Everyone gets freaked out because, no, I want to go into English, right? But I love how things work. So my note to myself is this is a topic that's asking about your passion. Be very careful. It's not about someone who inspired you. And while it's acceptable to make a note of a teacher or person who got in the right direction, the focus must remain on your academic interest. So remember that hero's journey where we said, if you're not the hero, who is? This is a possibility if I want to include the mentor. But again, the mentor has got to be discussed very quickly. A very influential teacher that I had in 3rd grade that I've stayed connected with and has, always been there for me. Good. Now move into your story. Number 7, what have you done to make your school or community a better place? What have you done to make your school or community a better place? So if you're in student government, you can say, hey, I'm active in student government. Okay, that's great, but why? Why are you active in student government? I play sports. I'm in art. I did the whatever the group is, every school calls it something different, where I brought freshmen onto campus and we helped them out. So what have you done to make your school or community a better place? So this can be a tough one. the thing to think about here is benefit. What did you do that led to the benefit for others? That's really the critical thing here. It doesn't have to be anything formal. It doesn't have to be this big, elaborate thing. Because what have you done to make your school or community a better place? I'm a good citizen. I watch out for other kids. I go to a culturally diverse school, and we have freshmen who are, 14, dealing with kids that are sometimes 18 on campus, or possibly even 19, and it can be a wide variance. And you have some kids that are very immature and some kids that are very mature. And I've decided, though there's no club, I've decided I'm going to watch out for these kids. If I see something wrong, I'm going to just step in and help the kid out. No one asked me. I doesn't show up on my application to your college. It's just something that I feel compelled to do. I'm walking around and I pick up trash. Yeah, well, this school is my home, right? And I would pick up trash in my home, so why wouldn't I do that? So there's a lot of little things that speak to who you are as a person. So you go, well, wait a second, Mike, you can't write an entire 350-word essay because you pick up trash. No, that's just one little element. What other little elements are there? Right? So I'm the trash man, and I go into that. And I'm here, I help people, and I'm here, whatever these are. And these all speak to who you are. Right? What these little nodes are. These all things that you thought were unrelated. And that's actually the interesting story, is that you can write something about you having a seemingly 5 or 6 things that you thought were totally unrelated. All, when you think about it, actually are all pointing to the same direction. Is that this is just who I am. I have a concern. I want the place that I am to be better. I figure if I care about it, others will care about it, collectively we'll do better. Right? So that's a nice thing. And the other thing too is that did anything that you've done, did that initiate a change for someone else? See, now that's the mark of a leader. Right? And then we can flash the fact that, listen, maybe I am a leader, but maybe I'm not the type that runs for student government, but in my own small circle, I am a leader because I do these things and other people will follow. So apparently, all 8 UC questions are created equal. That you can write on any 4, and any of the 4 will be all considered great. I think number 8 doesn't really apply to that same rule. So out of the 4 essays you write, I would highly recommend that you write on them on one of the first 7. And the reason why is that this one, in a sense, feels as if you've taken the easy way out. Beyond what has already been shared in your application, what you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for the admissions to University of California. I'm wonderful. I'm this suave, really great person that everyone wants to be around. I'm going to make your school better just because letting me be on your campus is going to raise your property values? Right? I mean, this one's a hard one. So it's not that you can't write on it, but I think that some of the other ones are going to be a little easier, and I think that this one has perhaps the greatest risk or reward issue. Right? You write a great essay, this one can be so good. But I think this one is really easy to screw up too. That's why I say this one is maybe one is not so good. So a couple things to consider. from your point of view, what do you feel makes you an excellent choice for UC? So you have to brag a little bit, right? Which is always a little hard, because how do you come off to other people reading that? So what I have learned is that we say, what do I value? What's important? And then from that, I want to try and find 2 to 3 things and discuss why. And really, the entire time, we're always looking. It's not so much what you value. It's not so much important. It's always back to that question, why, right? Because they're looking to see why. You can go ahead and include what you're passionate about. Oops, sorry. But maybe the passion one is better on the previous essay, right? This one now starts to look if you write about passion here, this one seems to look very similar to the other one. So maybe what are the couple of things that you're looking forward to? What is it out of the UC? What can the UC do for you? So when I get to UC wherever, I'm looking to do these aspects. I want this thing from college. I really want to find a group of other pseudo-intellectuals and we can all read books and think we know more than we do, right? Because that's what happens in college. You get a little bit of information, you think you know all kinds of things, and the more you go to college, the more you realize you don't know. That's the really frustrating part about education. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know things. So I really think that from what I'm able to distill in this essay, you can certainly do the passion one, but I think passion is going to be better on essay number 6. Oops. Right, so let's do essay number 6 if we're going to make this a passion project. And so the way that I would focus it here on this one is what makes you a strong candidate? Well, this is what I value, this is what's important to me. Here are the couple of things that I do, and here's why. And then you've got to do your very best at elaborating as to why that is. And on this one, again, this can be a fantastic essay if you really hit it right. But it can also turn into, gosh, I'm just this really fantastic person and your school better have me, otherwise you're missing out. Now, I know that sounds like no one would ever write that. Honestly, I've read essays where that is almost exactly what was said. So when we look at the difference between the different essays, you start to notice that there's going to be some overlap, right? We already saw that question 8 has a chance to have some passion, as does question 6. So often what I will tell people is that your first essay, you're going to find the topic that motivates you, that's the strongest one, and that's going to be easiest to start writing. Once you understand that pattern a little bit, essays 2 and 3, you'll get those cranked out. Essay number 4, the 4th one you have to write, generally will be your hardest one because you've all written out. There is so much similarity. There's these things, they don't overlap, but they come very close to touching the sides. And so you really struggle to figure out, well, I've already wrote too much about this one. I would say don't worry so much about that right now. Start writing. So what I would encourage you to do at this point is whenever we work on essays, I think of this as juggling tennis balls. I know with a Common App, I have to write 1 essay, 650 words. I know with the UC essays, I have to write 4. I'm an English teacher, but I know 1 + 4 is 5. A lot of people can juggle 3 tennis balls. Some people can juggle 4, and not very many people can juggle 5. If you're one of those people, that's fantastic. You're unlike most people. So what I would suggest to you is start on your best essay. Just get going. Just start writing. Write to the point where you can't write anymore, and then jump down to your second essay. Could be a Common App essay, could be another essay topic for the UC. It doesn't make any difference. Start writing. Leave that one floating for a while. Okay, you're going to write that one for a little while, then you're going to jump to number 3. Again, could be Common App, could be essay, doesn't make any difference. And then guess where you get to go? You get to go back to number 1. And so there's going to be this juggling process where I've got 2, 3 essays at a time up in the air floating, and don't try and finish any of them. Right? We don't have to worry about finishing anything right now. We have to worry about getting started. We have to worry about getting stuff. Because once you get something down on paper, then put it away. Go grab one of the other essays that you haven't done yet. Right? And then put that into the rotation. And then you go, okay, I'm kind of all burnt out on essay number 3. I can't think about any of it. No problem, jump to number 5. But number 1, maybe you're just killing it. I'm going to keep going because this one's awesome. Great. At some point that will run its course. And then, look back and jump into number 2. There's no right or wrong way on how to juggle these essays. The most critical thing you have to consider is just keep juggling the essays. We're hoping to be finished by November 1st. So if you're looking for any of those schools that need something early, you're going to be done. Realistically speaking, we know these are not due until November 30th. I know you're not going to be done by November 1st. Everyone knows you're not going to be done by November 1st. But we need to put a date down so that we have something to shoot for. You need a little pressure to get this going. So after you get this going, and you have this little bit of pressure, you're going to get something churned out. And so if you spend 3 or 4 weeks and you get a couple of different essays started, then you can put them away, take a little time off, and then you'll be great. Then you come back and you go, oh, you know what? That one was really not so good. I need to put that one away. I need to think I'm going to throw something else in. And you're just always rotating these essays. So initially you'll spend, a week to 2 weeks on a couple of essays, and then rotate them out. And then as the weeks go by, you'll spend less than a week and you'll rotate them. What I don't recommend is don't try and write 5 essays in one day. Don't try and edit 5 essays in one day. Emotionally, you'll be burnt. You won't have the academic, academic powerhouses. It's hard for anyone to do that. You're getting emotionally invested into these essays, so just keep rotating them through.